elections when they are with the
they've all been uncontested previously.
That's true.
For as long as memory holds, the last 3 or 4 yearly electoral cycles have been uncontested elections.
And you're absolutely right, that's what you pay for.
That's what you pay
If
for.
you have a parish council election, you've got to pay for it. Which is why so many parishes don't have them.
Yeah. As I know that with the polling cards, if we'd had an election this time, it's going to be over £5,000 for the seat Mr Johnson's taken. So there's an awful lot of money.
Yes, the polling cards were going to be at about 1,400 a month.
So thank you for the explanation, and I now understand, because obviously if it hadn't been contested, but we've never paid it before, so an RNA septic tank cleaning, £240. So I'd like to propose that...
Could I raise a point, please? You've got husband landscaping at 1,015. It was highlighted in the December meeting by the chair that mowing had been subcontracted. It was articulated by the chair that the contractor had arranged for the subcontract of that service delivery, and the impression that was given that that was without liaison with the parish council and that the subcontractor was authorised to do so. That's not the case. Subcontracting should not be unreasonably withheld if requested, but it must be agreed by both parties. If the parish council has not been engaged in the discussion and agreement to subcontract that service delivery, it is a breach of contract, and a breach of contract prevents you from authorising a payment.
Is that so? Is the fact that someone other than presumably Mr. Husband is mowing, does that mean that he has subcontracted it?
I do not know the full position of this. I know that it was in the contract that it could be subcontracted, and if it has been subcontracted and we've been aware that it's been subcontracted and carried on making payments, can you suddenly turn around and say, well, we realise you've done it the last 2 months, but now we're going to say don't pay you? And the contract states, when does the contract expire? Is it June? Oh, it's June. So I think that as we've been aware that it's been subcontracted and already paid it, it would seem that by default we've always authorised it, but...
You have individual responsibilities as parish councillors to conduct your due diligence in the expenditure of public money. The first time this anomaly was highlighted was at the December parish council meeting. I don't think you were there.
No, I wasn't.
And I subsequently consulted the original contract document, and it very clearly articulates subcontracting of the service delivery may be authorised and should not be unreasonably withheld, but it is with the agreement of both parties. The chair at the December meeting was clearly not aware of the contract stipulation and believed it was the subcontractors within their gift to tell the parish council that they were subcontracting it. If any person, I will ask for a called vote on the approval of the financial statement, a named vote on the approval of the financial statement, and each individual needs to look to their own personal responsibility for due diligence in public money.
I'm not sure that it has been subcontracted, because I've actually met Jamie out the allotment twice in cutting the grass, so I'm a bit confused here exactly who's
But John,
where the subcontracting has come in.
as Jamie's contracted to do the football fields, is he doing football fields?
No, he's not doing the pitches, no. Somebody else is cutting pitches.
See, the difficulty is,
Nobody was
If there's enough
notified,
flexibility
Chair.
within that money to subcontract it, then the person that's subcontracting it is taking a fee simply for subcontracting it and not actually doing anything. So that's not a proper use of public money.
But if...
Well, I've asked for a named vote, please. It's for each individual to do.
Can I ask a question? It's a set amount that is paid to husband,
Yes.
isn't it? And so the amount that is being paid is not in excess of what is being agreed
No.
to husband. So we're not paying any more money.
No.
So that as to what was agreed. Okay, all right. So I just want to say this: we're not paying any more money.
No.
I will be honest, and I don't quite understand sort of the bits about whether it's subcontracted. And if you can agree with that, and if we should have been asked beforehand, then we should have been asked beforehand. But as long as we haven't been paid more money, then we're not misusing, I don't think, the local people's money.
If I may, a technical point, perhaps but not too technical. Has the parish council got any visibility or awareness of any of the health and safety mission statements, risk assessments for the person that's currently working on their property? I suspect, but I don't suspect, I can pretty much guarantee the answer is absolutely no. You have no idea whatsoever who it is, when they're doing it, what they're doing it with, whether they're insured. You have no idea of what's happening on this estate.
Would that not be Jamie's responsibility?
It would be.
Well, no, the responsibility is yours as the employer. So
Yeah, but if we don't know that somebody else is doing it,
it was made public by the chair at the December meeting. The statement was made that it was known that an element of works was being subcontracted. The chair at the time believed that it was within the gift of the subcontractor, of the contractor, to subsequently subcontract the task. It was not. It never was in the original document. You'll all remember, I wrote it. It was never in that document that the contractor would be authorised to subcontract without the consent of the parish council. Because the parish council needs to understand who is here, when they're here, what they're doing it with, how they're doing it, who they're doing it to. And you don't have any of that visibility. So at the moment, the contractor has defaulted on the contract. You should not pay until the issue is resolved. It should now go to dispute resolution. How you deal with that, I can't off the top of my head remember if there's a specific detail in the contract for contract resolution. I suspect there probably is, because I would have put one in there, but it's probably a case of having a discussion. And that discussion should have happened after last meeting, when it was highlighted by the chair. I suspect lots of you didn't even know it had been subcontracted. But it was highlighted at the December meeting. That should have been the trigger for people to scratch their heads and say, well, who's doing it then? Why are they doing it? Where are they doing it? Those are the questions that should have triggered from that discussion, and it hasn't. That brings us to this point where you are all now corporately and individually aware, and you have to deal with that as you see fit.
Chair?
Yeah.
The point here is that we didn't, well, I haven't read the contract, but we didn't contract that Jamie Husband only would be personally responsible for mowing and doing everything.
Yes, you did.
Personally, him, only him.
That business entity.
Yes, but so he can employ, as anybody employs anybody else, someone to carry out work for him. And he has decided to employ somebody to carry out the work on the football pitches.
But our contract with him says that he should notify us.
Sorry?
That our contract with him says that he should notify us.
The task has been subcontracted. It's not a
I think
So
the
he
word
bona
subcontract
fides-
is overblown here. He's employed someone to carry out that
He's
work.
outsourced the task.
Right, can I just...
Yeah, sure, sorry.
I think it would be perfectly in order for Emma to write to Jamie Husband and to ask him details of who he's employed, or who is doing the mowing work. Ask for proof of their insurance or whether his insurance covers it. And then at the next meeting, because obviously you can't vote on something we haven't seen, well, once we have those details, we can vote to approve the subcontract. It is a very, it's only got 5 months
It's
left on
easily
the
done.
contract. So I see no reason at all why we can't do that, and I'm sure as long as the job's been done, it doesn't really matter who does it, as long as it's been done and they're insured and it's been done well, then but we would need to have a proof of insurance and who's doing it, then we would obviously, the council would then vote on that. John?
Are we going to ask like the 5 people that have cut the grass for Jamie, or just the one?
Well, we need to
There's
ask
loads of
Jamie
people that
who
cut
is cutting the grass.
Well, there's loads of people.
Yeah.
His uncle's done it, his employees have done it.
Well, if his
It's not
employees,
always
if
him,
his
but-
employees are doing it, that's fine. If
Well,
it's
they're
up-
not employees, they're self-employed.
Yeah.
So is
Yeah,
that,
but-
Have any input?
so is that any
But
different
that
to the person doing it now?
that is sort of splitting hairs to an extent. But if as long as his insurance is covering it,
So
if they work, if
it's
they
not
work in
splitting
this
hairs, so
business,
it's fundamental. It's fundamental.
It's the legal responsibilities. It's the HMRC definition of PAYE, self-employed, bona fide subcontractor, casual labour.
Well-
Those are clearly defined legal
well,
entities.
that is why I've asked. We would ask Emma to write to Jamie to clarify the situation, because some, do you know if someone's self-employed in this business? Do you know if they're actually employed? We need to have the information from the horse's
Yes.
mouth, because I don't think, so I think that is the only way to resolve that, to make sure that people do have insurance. So is the work being done to a decent standard?
Very decent standard, yeah.
So that
Far better than when Jamie was doing it. I'm sorry, but it's true.
well, but that was my sort of, sort of one of the biggest things is that we have to make sure that things are being done correctly and are being done well, as it has been done well. And I think I wasn't at the last meeting, so I can't comment on what was said. But I think contacting, no, I wasn't.
No, I know you weren't. I was just thinking it is in the minutes though.
Yeah, there's a difference between what's summarised in the minutes to everything that's said in a long discussion, because minutes would be 9,000 pages long. So,
Do you want a brief out of what is happening, or are you happy just to speak to Jamie? Or?
well, Emma will write to Jamie, and it needs to go through the clerk, because the clerk is responsible for managing contracts and everything like that. That is how it needs to be done. So, and I'm sure he will come back with explanation report to tell us what's going on, and then for next month's figures, we will be in a more secure place to know what's going on.
Yes, I can read out his, or send round his full email to the next full council meeting, so everyone's fully aware of what he has said and what is happening. So it will be his words that you will see and be voting on next meeting.
Thank you.
We're paying in arrears for work that has been done. Are we always doing our payments in arrears, yeah?
Yes.
I think we are.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. So the question is, and following on from what Kevin has said, is whether or not we pay now, or whether we wait until we've had explanations to Emma's letter as to whether we pay. Because that would require discussions whether there has been a breach of contract or not. In the way in which these things are done, I think that as people take on work, they employ people to do work that they've already contracted for as they get busier. And that's a fairly normal commercial activity. But we do need to clarify it. So the situation is, the work's already been done that we're going to pay for, but do we, in Emma's letter, indicate that we would withhold payment until this situation is clarified? Do we do that?
You're obliged to.
Well, that is a matter for the council to decide, not for if the council wished to say that, then that would be is perfectly within the.
Well, my proposal is that we pay for the work that's been done, because well, it's been done. But we also, in the letter, indicate that we're concerned about the possibility of a breach of contract, and therefore we would not pay until we're satisfied that that situation has been resolved.
I counter the proposal with you ought not to authorise a payment that you know to be potentially erroneous.
That's so. We'll go first on with Brian's proposal. Do I have a seconder for Brian's proposal? For that we would contact Jamie, we'd be paying this month and say next month we won't pay unless we have got an answer to our questions. It's a simple.
For me, I'm not sure. I'd like to see something back from Jamie to say, no, these are employees or these are contractors. And I'm afraid I'm unaware. In my experience is I've actually seen Jamie doing work. So I don't see how, because if he's employing somebody, he's not complying. So I'd like to know that first before we start.
We can ask him for an explanation as who is currently mowing the pitch. Are you subcontracting it? If you're subcontracting it, are they insured? Please give us the details, and the council will need to approve that before the next payment is made.
Yeah.
Well, we have two proposals then.
So we have the so mine's very similar.
Yeah, my proposal is we pay for the work that's been done, but we make it quite clear that we're concerned about a breach of contract. And we want that clarified before we pay for another month's work. That'd be my approach to it.
Yeah. We find out who's doing it, what they're.
Yeah.
And the counter proposal is that you as councillors are morally obliged to conduct due diligence before spending public money, and there's a potential breach or an anomaly in the contractual obligation.
Right, so I'm going to go with Brian first, because he put his proposal first. So Brian's proposing that we pay this month and contact Jamie, find out what's happening to make sure that there isn't a breach of contract, who's doing the work, etc., get the response, and if we don't get a response, then there may be, Right, so that's Brian. So Brian proposes second to Brian. Ira. All those in favour of Brian's proposal? 4. And we want a name vote on this one. So that's 4. Sue Harbord, Clive Sargent, Brian Sage and Ira Morris. Against? Nigel Ems and Kevin Johnson. Abstain? Brian Smith, Suzanne Horsfield, Penny, and Penelope Andrews and John Palenzo.
I'm only not voting because I'm guessing I've got an interest in it, or is that not?
I don't think we do.
Oh yes, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. So
you don't have a financial interest in it.
No.
you don't have a financial interest, but it's the same as it. So we have 4 for, 5 abstentions, 2 against. So it is passed.
No, we need the other proposition to be voted on.
That's been passed.
And compare the two. No, that's not how it works.
No, the first one gets voted on first.
No. You now need to propose the second proposition, and you need to compare the votes for the first against the second.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I think you'll find you do.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You vote one. You cannot, in one breath, vote for something and then have another vote on a diametrically on the opposite side. Because if people were against, they would vote against.
There were 2 proposals. You haven't had a vote on the second proposal.
Well, the first proposal was carried, so and your proposal is not to pay. So we've already voted to pay, so we pay.
Four parish councillors voted in support of paying.
It doesn't really matter how many voted in support. It is carried.
There's a majority and it's passed.
Yeah.
4.
It might.
Yeah.
The majority voted for. Abstentions don't count. It's fors and against that count.
You can answer to your general public.
We will.
You know, the job has. If the work had not been done to a satisfactory standard, I think most people here would have voted in a different way.
Yeah.
But as the work has been done to a satisfactory standard, the football club are happy. then there seems to be no reason to withhold payment, because if we had last month contacted the mower and we hadn't received any information back, then that would have been a different situation. As we did not give him chance to respond in any way, shape or form, then it would be unfair to withhold.
And can I just say, we also need a vote on accepting the financial
Yes.
report overall.
Oh, thank you. So taking out the mowing contract, can we have a vote on the wages, the clerk membership, mayor elections, and RNA cleaning, and the fact that we have £50 paid in and the direct debits?
Slightly confused, so taking out the mowing contract.
Well, we just voted on that one in particular as a separate item because it was queried. But this is for all other items on that thing, because we can't obviously pay the wages without voting on that. So I propose that we accept the payment schedule, notwithstanding with removal of the husband also, because we've already dealt with that. So I propose that we do that. Do I have a seconder? Suzanne, all those in favour? Carried.
It's program of wages.
Yeah. Right. And finally,
Can I just, Jamie's obviously watching the meeting,
yeah.
and he's texted me, can I tell you a little bit about what's
Can you
happening,
tell us
or-
at the end of the meeting,
Yeah,
please?
fine.
Because
Okay.
that wouldn't really be part of the meeting, but quite happy to hear that. That's absolutely fine. But so, if you know, if you want to sort of talk in a less formal setting.
Stop the recording.
And thank you to anyone who was watching.
Okay, we're finished.
Okay. John.
Right, so basically we had a grant as a football club to have pitch work done additional to what Jamie was doing.
Yeah.
So we had that work done. Well, it's an ongoing thing basically, where we have the work done to reseed the pitch and do all the stuff that needs doing, as opposed to the council having to do it. The football club's got the grant to do it. The contractor that's been doing that work with his specialist equipment, at times to do the work had to cut the grass himself, because when the seed was growing and all that sort of thing. So while he was doing that work, the grass has been far improved because of the way it's being cut with the equipment it's being cut with. So Jamie agreed that his equipment was not as good as what Steve's been using, so they've agreed. I think, well, Jamie says he's spoken to the council and said that he's subcontracting to Steve, that while he's doing the pitch improvements, it's better for him to be cutting it as well, because he does it at certain stages depending on what
that makes
sense.
sense. Because you have someone coming along and
If
mowing
Jamie
it,
came along and mowed it all and it was brand new seed, he's
Yeah.
just ruined the whole job that the other person's done. So they're trying to tie in together and work together to get the pitch improvements done, otherwise we lose the grant.
Right, that
So
simple explanation.
Someone should have a record of Jamie telling us that.
Well,
Whenever we have it.
I don't.
I don't think Jamie tells anyone when he comes up and cuts the grass.
No, but I mean, he's told someone, you said that he
Yes,
discussed with the
yes, he
council,
has, yes, he didn't specify who, but,
Yeah, so we should have a record of that.
so that's the reason that it's being cut by somebody else, basically.
So that's really quite a sensible compromise.
Yes.
Could it
But
possibly
it's a
have
breach
been
of
when
contract.
Derek was acting as clerk? You might have, I don't know whether it was under
It started the pitch work started last June, basically.
So he might have spoken to Ronnie about it. I don't know, but if we have it in writing from Jamie, then I'm sure, it can all be sorted out amicably, and perfectly logical explanation with a pitch improvement plan. So
the parish council's vulnerability is that it has no idea who's working on its estate and how they're doing it, how they're insured, or any of that business. That's your primary vulnerability.
And that was part of what we put in for Emma to ensure that the person
Obviously, prior to Steve doing the work and Jamie coming in, it wasn't necessarily Jamie coming in then either.
No, it
So
was
brilliant.
husband landscape.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you ever so much, ladies and gentlemen.